actually just opened quite. No, obviously this is the beginning of the Big Ten season, and that's where we've really had to focus, the entire preseason, everything. Not that the first three didn't matter, because they're all huge. In college football today, they get 12 guaranteed opportunities, and you got to take advantage of every one of them. But the real focus was like, guys, this is when the season begins, and so hopefully it allows us to push past Saturday. Obviously, we didn't play well. There's nothing I could sit here and tell you that, that was, this was just right there on the edge. I mean, there's some things that happen. We got to be more disciplined. You got to go on the road. You got to win the turnover battle. But hopefully this gives us an opportunity, even after the game, to say, hey, this is the start of the real season, and we got to make sure we move forward. We got to make sure we're ready to prepare for what this mountain and this climb of the Big Ten season is going to look like. And I think that helps us to all focus, myself included, every one of the coaches, but more importantly, the idea of it, guys, the whole purpose of what it is that we're doing is to continue this journey, this climb, and make sure no matter what, we're playing our best football at the end of the year. And that's where we've got to continue to stay focused to doing. And that means you got to get better. And that means you got to get better every week. And to be honest with you, the fourth quarter last week's game, in the huddle before, whether it was offense or defense, the only thing I kept reminding them is, guys, we understand that this is a journey. And every snap of every game, of every play, is a process for us to get better, no matter what the scoreboard reads right now. And so all I want to see is guys taking this opportunity to get better and playing a game, obviously in that situation, playing against a really, really, really good football team in a great environment, but finding a way to say, hey, every one of these reps is going to matter because ultimately we got to be playing our best ball at the end of the year, and we got to continue to climb.
Luke, what's the challenge you think Ryan, Colin, and Emerson are facing? And how do you square wanting to have patience, knowing there's a high ceiling, but also knowing they've got to play right now and make an impact?
Yeah, I don't think we said it in spring ball. I think we said it at the beginning of the year. Like, this is not a game meant for redshirt freshmen, I think, in particular on the offensive line or the defensive line. I'm not saying that there aren't guys out there that can't play as true freshmen. There's a reason guys are 4- and 5-star or high 5-star guys, high 4-star. Like, it doesn't mean that they're going to be the best NFL players. That just means they're more college ready in a lot of ways. And what a lot of offensive linemen are just not quite college ready, meaning that, how big are they, how strong are they? And that doesn't mean just in the weight room, right? Because there's plenty of guys that walk in the door here that are plenty strong enough in the weight room. The truth of the matter is that's where the grown men stuff really shows. And so these guys are being thrust into a situation and an opportunity, I guess it depends on how you look at it, that they have to grow even faster. And, that's where that whole idea that every snap of every day, in particular every game that you get an opportunity to play in, regardless of what the situation is, we have to take advantage of it. And I think those guys are doing a great job at that. And there's a lot of growth. But I think that when we talk about, where that growth between game 1 and game 2 and game 2 and game 3, and then that's the coaches' cliches. I think the greatest growth is in those types of guys. Do you get as great a growth out of a Riley Mahlman because he's in his 5th year or some of those other guys? Yeah, there's still a growth, but the real growth is in all those young guys that this might be the first real opportunity they've had to play the game. And we got to stay positive with that, and we got to continue to find ways to get better every single day.
Obviously, those injuries on the offensive line are a chief reason for the struggles with the running game. But aside from that, where do you need? What's holding you back in terms of running the ball?
Well, you just said it. There it is. There's a lot of things that go into that. I think that we got to do a better job at pushing the ball down the field some. Give those guys a little bit better opportunities to maybe not have as loaded of boxes. We've got to ID some things a little bit better. But I think it really comes down to those guys just working in unison. There's some yardage out there that we didn't take advantage of on Saturday, meaning, we shift, we motion, we do a lot of different things. It's not the easiest thing to line up to, but sometimes that's where the youth makes it more difficult. Right, and what I mean by that is when guys are misaligned. Well, hold on, that wasn't the look I worked on all week. That 3 technique was supposed to be there. That shade was supposed to be there. That the linebacker was supposed to be there. And then you get into some of those games with teams like that. I'm not saying they junk it up, but maybe they weren't aligned perfect every time. And where you're an older guy, you keep moving forward, and you understand that guess what? Somebody's going to end up in the spot where you're supposed to be, and whoever that is at that point in time, you're going to have to block. And for young guys, that's where the game's a little bit fast. And so if we could ask them to say, hey, you're not allowed to stem, you're not allowed to move, you just got to line up, it'd be maybe give them a better opportunity. But that's a part of that growth that, we know that there's some spots out there. We just those guys got to be able to work in unison together and trust one another so we can get more hats at the point of attack of what we need and give our backs a little bit better chance.
It wasn't long ago, but a true freshman quarterback was pretty rare as a starter. Maryland's starting one this week. Just what has happened in terms of how quarterbacks are developed at the high school and youth levels that's made maybe freshmen more common to see as a starting quarterback?
I think you said it there. It's a lot of the youth levels. I mean, a lot of these guys that are, high recruited quarterbacks, 5 stars, whatever, have somebody ranks them. I mean, they've been playing quarterback. They've had a quarterback trainer since they've been 10, 11, 12 years old. They've done those things. When they come into college, I think that there's a greater expectation and a realization of what they're walking into, right? And they're just not, me coming into college at 18 years old as a defensive lineman is a far different than an 18-year-old coming in today at a quarterback position has been trained since he's been 10, 11, 12 years old. Like, yes, they're still going to move into a dorm or an apartment. Yes, they're still going to have to go to class. Yes, they're still going to, but like, they aren't like a lot of the other 18-year-olds. So I think that's what's given them the best opportunity to be able to come into college. And obviously there's a growth period, but be able to be thrust into some of those things coming in the spring. But there's a maturity level that is far different than any other position in college football today.
As far as your run defense, I know obviously the Alabama game was tough, but did that show you anything against that kind of team as far as how you're defending the run?
Yeah, I mean, that was an emphasis for us. We did a good job at defending the run, but there's a balance to everything that you do. I've always said I don't want to be the number one rush defense in the country, which might mean that you're not real good at the pass defense, and I don't know that you want to be the number one pass defense in the country. I'm not saying you don't, right? There are some rarities where you've seen, a Georgia or Alabama team in the last whatever amount of years that, were a really, really, really good defense and led the country in rush defense. But there's a balance to what you got to be able to do, and that's what we didn't do a good enough job with on Saturday. Thought we did a really good job up front against the run, but obviously they maybe went away from it a little bit because of the way they were throwing the football. But that was an emphasis, as we talked about from spring ball all the way through fall camp, that finding some bigger bodies, finding some more length, and making sure we, put an emphasis and a focus on stopping the run, which gives you the better opportunity to earn the right to rush the passer. And we've done a really good job so far. We got to continue to do that, but we've also got to have some better balance to what we're doing defensively.
Coach, I don't know if you plan on having Billy this week, but if you do you have to say anything to him going into this game, or is he mature enough where all those emotions that he might be feeling aren't going to bother him on Saturday?
I think that anytime guys play their former team, it's an emotional thing. It's a difficult thing. I've done it have had it several times all the way back from 5 years ago. And so it was always something that I said, okay, look, we're not going to overlook this. We're going to make sure we communicate, talk about this, but it's not going to go away either. So, yes, Billy's mature. Yes, he's, obviously an older guy and has been through a lot of things, but it's not something that we would go, unnoticed or say, hey, let's let the elephant in the room be the elephant in the room and let's not talk about it. But there's a lot of other things on his plate, which maybe is even a little bit more better for him, so that he's distracted from maybe people talking about that as opposed to just saying, hey, am I going to be good enough? Am I going to be ready? So there's still a lot of things to be had.
Yes. Do you expect? What is the status with Billy?
I don't
and
know.
Also with Renfro as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know on either of them. It's a Monday, which is a good thing. Both of them, are going to have an opportunity to play this week. I don't know how far along we are. Jake finished the game last week, but again, is got an ankle now that I think last week was the knee. And then Billy is just going to be day to day. I think he warmed up Saturday and has continued to do things for us. It's just, we've said it for a while. It's, at some point in time, we're going to have to save Billy from Billy. But we also got to make some decisions as we move along during this week. But right now, we wouldn't know.
Luke, looking at, I know the sample set wasn't.
What's that?
The sample set wasn't too much with Ryan Corey, but just what did you see out of him? Obviously being thrust into a huge situation at Alabama.
Yeah, he had 10 plays. He had 10 snaps on Saturday. And to be honest, he did a good job. He played aggressive. He played fast. Maybe that's the situation where, you didn't have a chance to think about it, right? Maybe as you go in and as you started the game, hey, Jake's okay, he's going to play, you're the third guy, and maybe that's a little bit easier. And then all of a sudden, after one play, you're the second guy, and then after one more play, you're the guy in there. But in his 10 plays, we really felt like he played aggressive. He played fast. There was a lot of learning to be had, but I thought that there was something that showed that maybe we weren't even sure about. And sometimes you find those things out in game situations. I know I probably saw it a little bit more last year being down on the scout team, some of the toughness that I had seen from him. And I think I showed a little bit again on Saturday.
Hey, Coach, what's the importance of getting a win and getting back on track before bye week, before hitting kind of the tough part of your schedule?
Well, I think it's all tough. And I think that what we've kind of said to our guys is we kind of, not that everybody is, it's all about winning football games, but the focus of every day, the focus of getting better, it's not just cliche. This is a team where whether you're playing with 3 redshirt freshman offensive linemen or a lot of guys that, their first time playing together with us, we have to make sure that we aren't just focused on the destination. Saturday will take care of itself as we continue to do the things of, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and just keep grinding and keep pushing forward. And we know there's going to be some ups and downs. We know there's going to be some shots. How we handle those is going to be a really big deal because the consistency that we need to play with and we need to grow with is going to be what's going to give us the best opportunity, whether it's this Saturday, the following Saturday, 2, 3, 4, 5 Saturdays from now.
Luke, you've talked about the mentality of the running back room being something that you've been impressed with. How have they handled kind of that slow start with the running game? And I can imagine it'd be frustrating. There's no doubt. I actually went into Coach Spalding today and just spent a couple minutes just to ask him how the room was. Not that I don't see it, not that I don't talk to those guys, but obviously he sees it a little bit deeper on an everyday basis. Spends more time with those guys, and by being a competitive group, it makes it difficult. But I also haven't seen a change in them. Whether it's the way they practice, whether it's their demeanor and their attitudes on the sidelines. Demeanor and attitude after games, everything's disappointing when it doesn't go your way. But I also think that they understand what this journey looks like and what this process looks like, and that there's going to be some frustration. But no matter what, we've got to continue to push forward. And so, for being a younger group, and I don't mean that Cade Giacomelli is an older guy, which I think helps that room to have a little bit of a different level of maturity. But I've been proud. I mean, just, again, I wanted to see more for them. I wanted them to have greater opportunities. I wanted to get them to the second level more often and see what they can do. And it's just been a little bit tough sledding. And but I can honestly say, go out there on a Sunday night for practice, and they still, I would say, are the most competitive group on the team. I think that's a good sign for us.
You kind of talked about stretching the field a little bit with your. Obviously, Jaden had a nice play the other day. Vinny had a play where it was almost a deep ball and it didn't get there. I guess I'm just wondering.
It was a deep ball.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, yes, it was a deep ball that did get there. But when you look at the tape, are you seeing other instances where your receivers are? The opportunities are there, and it's just a matter of connecting and getting the ball there.
You put me into that offensive guy mode, right? If we'd have just thrown that one, it'd have been a touchdown. But there's no matter what. I mean, I could look at us defensively and say, "Oh my goodness, there was an opportunity for them to take a shot there." So it doesn't matter how you look at it. There are opportunities. There are, but there's a combination of things that have to fall in line. A lot of that has to do with protection, and. So yes, I do think there were some opportunities, there were some chances. We didn't maybe take as many as maybe were there, but I think that you could say that on most any game. The harder thing is when you're not running the ball as well and you're not being able to create some things up front. that it's a lot easier to say, hey, we should just throw the ball down the field. And there's the same thing. There's a balance to what it is that you got to be able to do. But we know that there's going to be some opportunities. It's great to see that Jaden, make the play down the field. It's actually great to see, Vinny get back to, having some opportunities like he did. He didn't come down with it. But more opportunities are going to be there, and there's going to be more chances down the road. We just got to find ways to execute them, And so there's a balance to, having complementary football and the game plan of what you want to be able to do, and sticking to the game plan, but also being able to, make some adjustments and deviate based on the things and the way people are playing you.
Obviously, a lot of talk preseason about more negative plays, more TFLs, more takeaways. Quarter of the way through the season, how would you evaluate how the defense has done those things?
Well, obviously the takeaways has not been as good. I mean, they usually come, in bunches. We, obviously got 2 in the first game, 1 in the second, and none, on Saturday. And that's, going on the road, I said that, the number one ability to win on the road, and in particular as an underdog, is turnovers. And not many teams win on the road as an underdog without winning the turnover margin. And you can do as much as you want to do, defensively stripping at balls and doing all the things you do, and you got to capitalize on it. And we didn't get a ball on the ground, and I don't really think we had a hand on a ball. Maybe there was one tip ball, and we got to just continue to focus on it. They'll come, they'll be there. But it's not good enough where we are right now. I think we have created more negative yardage plays. I think we've put ourselves in better situations, whether it's second and long, but always one of those things where you got to continue to get better at. We're nowhere where we need to be, but we feel like we got opportunities. We just got to take advantage of some of those ones that are out there.
You told us Saturday that you're trying to be more positive. I'm curious. I'm sure you're constantly evaluating yourself. Is that something in the offseason that you said, hey, I'm being too negative? Or
Well, no. You're always trying to say, okay, what's going to be the best, not for me, because it feels better sometimes to put your hand through a wall or put your head through a window, right? Yeah, that feels good at times. But in the long run, I don't know what it does for us. And so understanding that we're going to maybe be playing with some redshirt freshmen, and we're going to be playing with some young guys, I can't say, hey, it's about a consistency, it's about development, it's about playing your best ball at the end of the year, and then having the most inconsistent guy, leading and guiding the program. So the ability to say, hey, I'm not going to rise and fall on everything that happens on Saturday. It kills you. It doesn't mean you don't feel bad, but your ability to come back in the next day, to pick it up, to continue to move forward, find the things that you need to get better at, is really what that focus is. It doesn't mean, hey, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to come in here on Sunday and say, hey, guys, it's all right. Hey, we lost one. It's okay. No, that's not the case. That's not the difference between being positive and the difference between being honest. I think there's a fine line there. And that's where the maturity of our team, I think, can handle the honesty, maybe even a little bit more than we have in the past. But asking them to have that competitive maturity to be able to not accept a loss, but be able to move on from a loss is not something I've ever been able to do a good job of. And so I challenge myself that, when those things come up, and probably we're going to happen at some point in time this year, to be able to do what I'm asking the leadership of our team and our entire team to do. So it's not easy, but I think it's what we need to make sure we understand what this journey is going to continue to look like.
Christian Allegro has been one of your best pass rushers so far this year. What does he do as you evaluate tape from that inside linebacker spot, getting after the quarterback?
Is that a PFF stat or something, or is that that's just the naked eye? Now, Christian has been a productive guy in everything that we've done this year. Rushing the passer has been obviously something that's shown up. I think that was one of the bigger sacks from Saturday. But he's an aggressive guy. This is his first real season of starting. I think he started the last couple games of the year. There's a high ceiling for a lot of things that he can do. As a linebacker, as a rush guy, size and speed gives him those opportunities. But I just think that you're seeing an aggressive guy. We're trying to find ways and put him in some positions and some situations where he can be a rush guy. He's shown to be a decent edge rush guy, and he's even a better up the middle rush guy. So we're going to continue to build off those things. That's the expectation for what we want from linebackers. and that's the expectation they've had here in the past for a lot of really, really good linebackers. And when they went to the next level, they were always like, well, they are an outside linebacker, or they an inside linebacker. They play on the edge, they can rush the passer. It's a good combination of things that that you need to have as a linebacker, and we just need to continue to develop it.
Luke, looking at Maryland, kind of going off of Colton's question with quarterbacks, but like, what do you see from that quarterback, and also the offense with a new coordinator, and then on the flip side with another new coordinator? Anything that you see that's different from years past?
No, I mean, how much did we spend on watching the stuff from the year before? I mean, there's some. I know that Michael Oxley has a large influence on the offense, so there's a lot of carryover for the things that they've done in the past. New, obviously, freshman quarterback, very, very, very talented, has played and performed well in the first 3 weeks of the season. I think that's one of those things as a program you make a decision on, and you're just going to continue to grind and move forward with it. And so I think they're in a really good place. I think they've done some really good things, but you do see as a younger guy, they're playing to strengths. They've got some skilled athletes. They get the ball out of his hand. He throws a really good deep ball, and I think they've taken advantage of a lot of that in the first 3 games.
Last two, Colton and Mark.
Luke, how was Davis Heinsohn taking kind of that role shift for him coming in, was competing for that, or going to be that starting left tackle, then things changed?
Yeah, I have not seen a difference in Davis's demeanor and things like that. I think that, even being an older guy, he is recognizing that there's a lot of growth, and so the consistency to continue to grow is where he's continued to do. We need more out of him, to be honest with you. We need to have the ability to be able to play him in there, and whether it's spelling, whether it's rolling some guys, whether it's at guard, whether it's at tackle, we got to continue to put some of the pressure on those guys. And if there's anything that I would say, that we know we've got to continue to grow. We know young guys have to grow and will grow. I think we've got to put a little bit more onto some of our older guys, our better players, our older guys, our experienced guys. Got to make sure that they're playing their best ball. And Davis is one of those. I know he's new here, but he's an older guy. He has the ability to do it. There's going to be a lot of opportunities down these next, this week, the next 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks that we are going to need him. And he's going to be put in some of those positions, and he's got to be ready for it.
Austin Brown had his career high for tackles the other day. Just what stood out to you when you look back at the film?
Well, I think that we're seeing, Austin is a fourth-year guy, a senior, but is still in a lot of ways a young guy. And there's a piece of this confidence level that is continuing to grow. He's one of the more talented guys I think we have on the entire team. As far as speed, size, ability to run, ability to tackle. He's one of those guys that I've always keep saying, like your ability is everything that they're looking for at the next level. Your ability to show that is what's going to be the biggest difference. And so I'm seeing a greater confidence in what it is he's doing. We've moved him around in the past since I've been here, from field safety to nickel, back to field safety to boundary safety. And I think we're finally just seeing, hey, he's been a boundary safety for the last 8 months. And as long as we can keep him there and you see his growth continuing and his confidence building, I think the future is really bright for him.